Hey everybody, Brian Von Vier here, back at it again with another set of D&D stories, but today we're actually going to be talking about something of a flip. What is your favorite RPG that isn't D&D, and why? I like games that encourage the players to contribute their own ideas to the shared narrative, rather than relying on the pre-planned story devised by one GM. I also want a game with a solid structure and mechanics that not only determine success or failure, but also propel the story forward. The best example of this that I've found is Apocalypse World, written by Vincent Baker. When I've emceed this game, I've found it very easy to let the players take control and contribute their own vision to the imaginary world. Their characters quickly come alive and find a voice of their own. Plus, the book is really well written and a hell of a lot of fun to read. Birth forth Apocalyptica! The author of this particular comment is a Swedish person, so I will simply do my best to pronounce this. Oh God, that is, I'm gonna give this my best try. Hiltanas Tid. I hope I did that right. Please correct me if I didn't, because I wrote it. It's a skill-based percentile dice Swedish fantasy game aimed at beginners with little or no experience, or at experienced gamers who don't have the time to invest thousands of pages of rules, or monsters, or world building. If I have to pick a game that I didn't write, Star Wars D6 is very high up on the list, 2nd edition revised and expanded in particular. A White Wolf game loosely related to the wildly successful World of Darkness games, Exalted is about God-touched heroes doing world-changing deeds. I adore both the system and the setting. In a distant, mythic past, people sometimes manifest extraordinary abilities thanks to a gift of divine power. They become exalted by a patron god, the god of the sun, the goddess of the moon, elemental dragons, and so on. Fantastically powerful, they can set wrongs to right, amass great fortunes, and forge their own legends. The world is vast, and its political and social structures varied and Byzantine. A game can have almost any flavor: court intrigue, dungeon delving, ghost hunting, pirates on the high seas, kung fu, face-off, total war. Just pick a corner of creation and something unique is happening there. The writers list influences including fantasy epics, classics, manga, and religious texts from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon to Herodias. They know their stuff down to the political implications of minting money. I can immerse myself in the lore for hours as though I were reading a novel. System. Exalted uses dice pools, and dice pools are fantastic. Picking up a great handful of dice and tossing them down on a table satisfies me in a visceral way. Handling modifiers means adding and removing physical objects rather than doing addition and subtraction in your head. And to engage in some statistical nerdery for a moment, a dice pool's distribution of results is quite different from, say, rolling 1d20. Rolling a pool of dice is simultaneously more and less predictable than rolling one die. A large dice pool has a wide range of possible outcomes, but middling results are more likely than extreme results. You know you'll probably get something average, but you might get something spectacular or spectacularly bad. The stunting mechanic encourages players to be creative and descriptive. When you describe your character's actions in a cool way, you get a bonus on the roll, making it more likely that you succeed in doing the cool thing you just described. Maybe you'll do okay if you say, "I attack the monster," but you'll do better if you say, "My sword cuts a gleaming arc through the air and sinks into the monster's chest. A gout of its hot blood spurting across my face." In fact, improbably epic things become more probable due to their coolness. The universe wants the characters to commit over-the-top feats of legend and rewards them when they try. Character generation balances restriction and flexibility in a way I like. Your character has access to hundreds of abilities, but has a natural facility with some, nudging you in some directions, but leaving open the possibility of different choices. I also appreciate that you start out as a badass. You don't have to earn your fun by slogging through several levels of uselessness. In this setting, your character is a force to be reckoned with from the opening session. Combat is complex, more granular, and less abstracted than many other systems. When you attack, you roll to determine whether or not your attack connects. Then, you figure out whether or not it penetrates. Then you see how much it actually wounds them. And finally, you find out how much they really notice that wound. There are also meaningful degrees of success. If your attack is very, very accurate, you might be able to do a lot of damage even with a small weapon. The complexity opens up opportunities for strategy. I'm also very excited about the new Withering or Decisive dynamic, which is in the upcoming Exalted 3rd Edition, which my friends and I have playtested based on leaked material. Sorry, White Wolf. My friends and I like the Exalted system so much, in fact, that we've modified it to work with our other favorite RPG, Rifts. That homebrew is my actual favorite RPG of all time, but I can't share too many details about it because it's a massive double copyright infringement. Wow, okay. The classic science fiction game Traveler is my favorite RPG that isn't D&D. Why? Partly because while it is a numerical statistics and dice rolling RPG like D&D, it is a very different game and setting. Characters do not start off as young heroes at the beginning of their journey, like Luke Skywalker. They start off as seasoned professionals at the height of their abilities, Han Solo, James Bond, etc. There also aren't any character classes. Characters have a universal personality profile that defines strength and etc. And they have a list of their specialty skills. The rest is up to the player and game master. For example, this is a full character description of a character from a game I was in. Merchant, First Officer, 478784, 30 years old. Skills, Electronics 2, Medical 2, Pilot 1, Navigation 1, Vehicle, Admin, Shotgun, all 1. Possessions, CR 35,000, Shotgun, Medkit TL7, Toolkit TL7, and Mesh Armor. Combat is deadly and impacts your character's statistics directly, rather than wearing down an abstract number of hit points. A wounded Traveler character does not fight as well as a fresh one. Oh, spaceship! Traveler games are the kind of space opera that has FTL starships, artificial gravity, thousand-world empires and larger, etc. Any sci-fi from Alien to Firefly is an inspiration, though Traveler tends toward the harder settings that, say, Valerian or Guardians of the Galaxy. Ooh. Traveler is really a small collection of minigames that can be employed by a gaming group to help guide adventures in the far future. In fact, I've probably spent as much, if not more, time rolling up new star systems, characters, creatures, etc. than I have actually playing Traveler. They even have a trading game that generates what cargoes and passengers are available between any two worlds that can form the basis of a solo, keep flying type merchant campaign. The Morrow Project. Very old school. Bonus points to anyone who remembers it. Your characters are chosen to go through extensive training with weapons and survival techniques and formed into a team to be frozen and awakened 5 years after the nuclear war. That billionaire industrialist T.H. Morrow believes is inevitable. There will be 100 or more such teams scattered across the United States in locations unlikely to be targeted by nukes, such as national parks, hidden and buried bunkers with computers to wake them all at once 5 years after the war to come out, contact each other, and rebuild the United States. They will have weapons, ammo, freeze-dried rations, medicine, and vehicles with fusion power engines that don't need refueling stored within them, all sealed as to not rust or decay. There will also be a command center known as Prime Base to coordinate the teams. There will be 3 types of teams: Recon, Science, and Mars combat teams. Recon will awaken first, assess the situation locally, then Mars will be put online to deal with the threats such as Soviet troops, local warlords, and finally Science teams will be awakened to offer medical assistance and show how to rebuild society. This is all very neat and orderly. Spoiler alert though, if you ever plan to play the game not knowing the rest makes it the most fun. Ooh, okay. Your team wakes up, but you can't get anyone on the radio. In fact, there is nothing but static on any band. You leave your bolt hole, and the well-maintained national park is a wilderness. The road is cracked and overgrown or gone completely. You start up your fusion-powered vehicles and make your way to the nearest highway and find it's also long underused. You take readings with the equipment in your vehicles to find out the year and learn it's been decades since you were frozen. There are no other teams, but there are warlords and small kingdoms and people surviving at a 19th century level. They have muskets, locally made, and a few antique modern weapons left over from before the war. A few have vehicles that still run using alcohol or some other source, while others have horses. And they have no idea who you are. At most, they remember their grandfather telling them about meeting some strangers in a vehicle like yours 30 years ago. But he said the locals killed them, or they went away and never returned. The kicker is, for some reason, Prime Base never woke the teams. Instead, the teams were triggered randomly, and just like your team, found themselves all alone. Oh, and something called the Krell Empire rules a sizable chunk of what was the United States and pays well to be informed of any strangers and strange vehicles who suddenly appear. Now go forth and rebuild the world. Also, I need to play the Morrow Project now because that sounds like it's right up my alley along with that Sci-Fi one. Okay, this is a hard choice. Let's read off the candidates. Savage Worlds. This is an amazingly flexible cinematic system. It's easy to learn, and there are lots of people who have adapted it to different games. Mutants and Masterminds. Oh, this is my favorite superhero game. Flexible enough to cover almost any concept, but fast in play. BESM. Big Eyes, Small Mouth. It's the best game for anime. It got our mostly male group to play a group of middle school magical girls. Ugh. But those two are just rules systems. How sexy can a rules system be? Now let's look at games with settings. I'm going to eliminate licensed settings just to keep it under control. In nomine. The mechanics may be funky, but this game is pure awesome. You play angels and possible devils working in the material world. God and devil aren't communicative, and the archangels and demon princes are doing the best they can. Each lord is focused on their words, which power them, but limit them almost as much. HOL. Human-occupied landfill. What? This is a mindfuck of a game. You start on a planet where they dump all the malcontents of the universe. It's a work of art. Every page is hand-lettered and illustrated. Even when it's disturbing, you can't look away. And any game with child-diddling monks and Elvis can't be right. Yeah, that doesn't sound right to me. Shadowrun. Oh, I like Shadowrun. This is a great mix between cyberpunk and fantasy. Two great tastes that taste better together. It's the intersection of three worlds, the astral plane of magic, cyberspace, and the world of meat and metal. There's a good balance between the effects of tech and magic, and they both end up becoming essential. The world is deep with information about everything from sports leagues, to drugs, to fashion, to a history that goes far beyond anything we know. I have a couple favorite characters. Asshole Bob, a troll shaman with a bad attitude, and Die Arteganen, a sad swashbuckler whose abilities were based off of absolute self-confidence. And finally, we come to the winner. Seventh Sea. Thea is a world like Europe, with nations that are idolized images of Earth nations, but twisted in unique ways. It's swashbuckling, but with magics both ancient and new. Magic is tied to the noble bloodlines, with each nation having its own unique types. Montaigne is like pre-revolutionary France, but the nobles can teleport by ripping holes in the world, holes that bleed and scream. Avalon is a fae-touched Elizabethan Britain, where the great heroes emulate legends. Votus is the warring city-states of Italy, where the women manipulate fate through tarot decks. I spent a few years in Castile, a war-torn land in need of a king. Ramon was a liar, an actor, a surgeon, and a scholar. He was a commoner pretending to be a noble and financing that through becoming a bandit and robbing the worst of his new peers. Of course, it turns out he was noble, but his family was killed for the curse of magic. He traveled with star-crossed lovers Alejandro, the horse breeder, and Isabel, the daughter of one of the triumvirate running the country. It was a telenovela. complete with seasons, theme songs, commercials, and internet forums. Sadly, the GM moved to Japan before the finale with a dual wedding. Ooh, okay, interesting. Hey everybody, Brian Von VA here checking in after the vid. Please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, ring that bell, and of course, don't you forget to leave a comment down below. We love you all, and we will see you next time. Bye for now.